Hi everyone. So in this lesson, we are going to keep using redirects and the session to actually then build ourselves an admin page. So at the conclusion of last lesson, we had it so that once the user logs in, they get sent to the home page. One of the things we need to ensure is that only logged in users can go to the home page. So I'm going to actually test to see if the user has logged in before allowing them to proceed. So under my home.roots, my view function there, I'm going to say if user ID not in session. Remember, session is a Python dictionary available anywhere in our code and anywhere in any HTML page. So if the user ID key does not exist in the session dictionary, we are going to return a redirect back to the login page. So that fixes that problem. They must have logged in to get to the home page. We're also going to make it so that if the user is the admin user, we're actually going to send them to an admin page. And to do that, we're going to go back to the login code. And currently I've got here return redirect home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test the session permission to see if it's actually equal to admin. When the user is registered, they're automatically allocated a user value under permission in the database. But for the admin user, they've got admin permission. So when they log in, we're going to get that permission from their database field. And if they are the admin, we're going to return a redirect to an admin URL, which doesn't exist yet, but we will do so in a second. Else, I'm actually going to return a redirect to home. So if they're not the admin, they get sent to the home page. If they are the admin, they get sent to the admin page, which is what we are going to build now. So to build the admin page, we create ourselves a root. And just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to log that out to my log that they've attempted to access the admin page. And then I'm just going to return, but I'm going to return a render template. So I'm actually going to create myself an admin HTML page. And even at this point here, I want to think about permissions because I don't want the ordinary user to be able to get to the admin page. So again, I can test the session. I'm going to say if permission not in session. So if the permission is not in the session, they haven't logged in. I'm going to return a redirect to the login page. And get in a pattern of putting dots in front just so you're not forwarding on data later on. But then I also want to test the permission. So else permission does exist in the session, so they have logged in. I want to actually test to see if that session permission does not equal admin. And if it doesn't equal admin, I also need to redirect them. Right, so that's just a bit of security there to ensure that user has logged in and the user is admin. If neither of those are the case, it will redirect them. So this code here is only going to run if the user has actually is the admin. Right. The next step is what we're going to think about what we're going to do with the admin page. And I think it'd be a really good exercise for us to get the results from our database and actually output them on a page, which is something we haven't done yet. So we're going to get ourselves the user table, and we're going to send those results to the admin page, which doesn't exist yet, but will in a second. So at this point here, I'm going to pass a variable. I'm going to call it results, and I'm going to give it the value of the results variable from this page. Now, I can get an error here. I said, no, it'll be fine. I was going to say there might have been an error because results doesn't exist, but it will exist. Okay. So I'm going to get all the data from the user table and I'm going to send it to the admin page. Right. So now it's time to build the admin page. So I'm going to go to templates and I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it the admin.html file. And I might as well just copy the stuff that's in the home page for the moment. Rather than reinventing the wheel, I can actually just copy the code. So that's my basic homepage code. But I'm going to change the name to admin. And I'm going to output the user results table or the user table into this page. Now I can do that using, again, some Python commands. So the first Python command I'm going to do, and whenever you're using a Python command in Flask and inside the HTML, you have to use a curly brace and a percentage sign. So here I'm just going to firstly test that results exists. So only if results exists am I going to proceed. And the important thing about using Python code inside HTML using Flask is when you have a block of code, you've got to actually end that block of code. So you'll notice here that where I've got block content, I've got end block. Where I've got if results, I actually need to do an end if, which should be familiar to students. Pseudocode practice in term 1, we're going to use that information because we need to close our block. So end if. Right. So now we can put HTML code inside here. So let's put a table initially. And I'm just going to say table is equal to, Bootstrap has a number of different table styles. I think I'm just going to go the basic table style. And inside that table style, I'm going to create one row and I'm going to create one cell. And I'm just going to have here, I'm just going to type cell. You might want to look up the table syntax using W3 Schools to get that. I mean, I know it pretty well, but for most people, you may need to look up W3 Schools to get the table syntax. Right, so this table is only going to appear if results exists, and the result comes from the user table. Right, let's run the code because I haven't tested this code yet. Hopefully everything is working. So we've got the basic admin page. We test the permission. We test that they're the admin. If it gets to this point here, then they have logged in. They are the admin. We get the results from the table and we output it to the page. So I'm going to go back to my browser. I'm just going to log in as the admin. Admin, and the password is admin. Log in. Right, and it's gone to the admin page. So everything is working. So far, so good. You can see that it's brought in their first name and last name, and you can see that I've got one cell on my page. But what I do know is that results is actually a list of dictionaries. And we need to use that syntax to be able to generate the HTML for the page. So once I'm here, inside my table, I'm actually going to repeat the number of rows based on the number of dictionaries. So remember, it's a list of results is a list of dictionaries. So to do that, again, I'm going to use a Python command. And the Python command I'm going to use is for row in results. And again, because the way Flask works, I need to know where that block of code ends. So I need to do an end for. Right. And then for the moment, I'm actually just going to get the variable row, because the variable row exists now. And I'm just going to output that into a cell. So let's see what appears on the screen now. Basically, I've created a table if there's results, and I'm going to create a row for each Python dictionary, because results is a list of Python dictionary, which you can see from the back door. I mean, if I go back to the back door, this is the list of Python dictionaries that exists in my database in the user table, and the admin page is turning that into a table. And you can see I've just reloaded the admin page. Each one of those has now appeared in a single cell in my admin page. Right, let's keep changing this into HTML table. So now that I've got to the Python dictionary, I need to create a cell for each value in the Python dictionary. And to do that, I'm going to separate out the rows. And again, I'm going to do a for loop. So in Flask, you need to do curly brace %, for, and I'm just going to say for column, or actually maybe I'll go for cell, in. And to cycle through a Python dictionary, there's a couple of functions we can use. One is row.values. Row.values cycles through the values in the Python dictionary. Now, I still need to have an end for. So every time you do an if statement, you need an end if. Every time you do a for statement, you need to do an end for. So just be very aware that when you use Flask, you need to close the block of code. Right. So hopefully now that's going to create a cell for each value in that Python dictionary. Okay, now the only problem here is it's actually put in all the column names as well, which is not what I wanted. I actually only wanted to get, oh right, the reason being is that here I need to make that cell. The variable itself needed to be the cell. I'm going to run that again. Right, so now I've got my table. My basic table is showing. Now, if I want to get headings for the cells in this table, I can also output heading tags. And I'm going to do that as the last thing for this tutorial, but I am going to borrow code from something I've done elsewhere. So currently we're outputting all the values, but I want to output the headings as well. So I can actually do that using this code here. And excuse me for looking and borrowing code, but it is what it is. So inside my results, I've got the basic cells being generated, but the first row in my table, I want to get all the headings. And to do that, I'm going to create myself a single table row. I'm going to get the column name, in terms of the actual results. And that's column name there. Right, and then I'm going to run that code, and that will be the end of this tutorial. Thank you very much for listening.